What is going on, everybody? What is going on, everybody? My name is JeffLightsyJr. here with the Black Boss Channel and Victory Formation. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button because we have a good special guest in the building, Mr. Coach Marcus Falanai. He out at Long Beach Poly. Coach, how are you doing? Because we know there's a lot going on out there at Long Beach Poly, but how are you doing, sir?
Man, I'm doing blessed, man. Thank you for inviting me on this platform and interviewing me today. I really appreciate it, man, and just blessed to make this connection with you.
No doubt, no doubt. Coach Marcus is from out in the West Coast. He coaches at one of the premier high schools in California, but he also has a special HBCU connection. Coach Marcus went to North Carolina Central, and now we're seeing an influx of amount of top talent from not just Poly, but across California, making their way back south to HBCUs. Now, Coach, before we get into what's taking place today, take me back to when you were in high school and how you ended up at North Carolina Central out of Long Beach.
Well, actually, I did go straight out of high school. I actually went to Minnesota State, a PWI. And funny story is, like, I grew up kind of like in a very strict Samoan household. So I actually went to Minnesota State, and I only lasted a semester. I got kicked out. And then I went to Cerritos College, a JUCO, and from there, it was a couple of schools. It was actually Hampton and North Carolina Central that were my two choices, and I chose to go North Carolina Central because my boy went to Chapel Hill that I played with in high school. He played under Butch Davis, and so my recruiter at North Carolina Central, the head coach was Frazier. And then my O-line coach was Dwayne Foster. And then the OC, who was my recruiter, was Mike Bryant. And they were a staff that came from Bowie State. Yeah, so when they came in, they're recruiting. They came over, and from there, I chose to go there.
Now, back during that time, what was your experience like at North Carolina Central?
You know what? Honestly, man, I really didn't know what to expect. Again, me being, Samoan, I really didn't. I knew of HBCUs, of what I've like what I've seen on TV and the bands and everything, but I really didn't know what to experience as far as like what was going to happen when I went there. And obviously, the picture I sent you, you seen like I had long hair, like just I basically walked on, my first day on campus. I had black and white Chuck Taylors, cargo shorts, and a tank top, and long hair with a big tribal tattoo on. So when I walked on campus, man, at first it was kind of like, okay, let me fill it out, but the comfort level that I got from being surrounded by so many genuine people, it made it easier for me to transition, just because I grew up in a neighborhood in Long Beach where it was predominantly African American, Mexican, Cambodian. So I was born and raised in a very diverse culture, and that's just Long Beach in the city itself. It's very diverse. So going there, it was easier for me to transition and kind of create relationships with people, and so it was easier for me to kind of like meet people and and kind of have those relationships that made it easier to be away from home.
Absolutely, and it sounds like you were able to adjust well and do your thing down there at North Carolina Central, but you go back out to Long Beach, and now you're coaching with, one of, like I said, the premier high schools in California. But there was a parent that actually told me you've been an advocate of getting young men and kids to go out to these HBCUs since you've been back home. Kind of what made you want to do that?
So I came back in 2000, the ending of 2013, going into that season. And I came back, and with my experience and how much I loved it, I knew that kids out here, they would love it too. Like, but there wasn't much they knew about it. Just like me, all they knew was what they seen on TV, what was shown from the media, and that's not even the best part of a HBCU. You know, you learn about the history, the raw truth history about slavery. You know, about the real people who are the foundation of America, who don't get talked about a lot. You know, and you know, like what people say, a whitewashed history, which you don't, you know, people talk about, but they just talk about it, and a lot of people don't accept it. Like, yeah, you know, and I tell these kids a lot. At first, they're just kind of like looking at me like, he's probably joking. And I'm like, in all serious, I'm not. Like, you know, one kid made a statement, was like, dang, coach, when you talk about HBCUs and you talk about, you know, Black history, like I close my eyes and you sound like a Black Panther, or like you sound. I said no, because at some point when you learn the truth, you know, you got to tell it. Like, absolutely. The truth is uncomfortable. The truth, you know, it's uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean you take away from it and you continue to lie about it. So, you know, and when I would talk about these kids about HBCUs, there was so much, for me, I was hearing negative things from them. Like, oh, it's only Black people can attend. Isn't that true? And I'm like, you guys are, you know, but you can't blame a child for being ignorant. You can never blame a child. You can't blame a child for what they, you know, they're children. They don't know any better. They only say what they've been taught. So instead of me like saying like, you know, oh man, you're an idiot, I said, no, sit down. Let me show you something. Let me, you know, like one of my professors, let me learn you something real quick, young man. So I would sit them down and I would go through these, you know, even a lot of the African American kids that didn't know. And it was a majority of them that didn't know about HBCUs. So I would kind of like sit them down and tell them about, like, you know, these are great places to go. And, you know, North Carolina A&T is not the only HBCU out there. You know, you have Bethune-Cookman, you know, you have Norfolk State, you have North Carolina Central, you know, you have Elizabeth City State, you know, you have Shaw University, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta. Absolutely. And so, you know, when I was naming all these schools, they were like, so wait, there's more than, and I'm like, wow, you know. And so I kind of like, I said, you know what, let me be an advocate. Let instead of me like, you know, kind of getting mad and shunning them off, like let me help talk to these kids and tell them. And so like everywhere I went, I kind of made it not my mission, not just my mission, but like, you know, kind of tell them like, listen, if there's anything I can say to put HBCUs in a better light for you, let me tell you this. You know, and let me tell you, like, it's the homecoming. It's that's not just the only thing that's popping over there. Like it's a genuine experience, and it's an experience that you would love to you would love to be a part of, and you know, and let it help you grow. Because and when you understand the real truth behind a lot of the lies you've been lied to about the history of the history of America and just the history in itself, you start to learn that what the truth looks like and what it sounds like. And you know, for me, that's what it was. It was kind of like epiphany. Like, you know what? I'm gonna start advocating. I'm gonna start telling these kids, like, man, there's nothing wrong with the HBCU. And you know, being on the West Coast, being in SoCal, all these kids, and you know, everything is about the shiny bright lights. You know, but you know, like I tell all these kids, you know, that old saying, not everything that glitters is not gold. Absolutely. So you have to do your due diligence and learn the truth about, you know, these schools you're going to, you know, and really not just, you know, take my word for it. Go do your own research. Go learn the truth behind, you know, why Bethune-Cookman was made. Go learn about North Carolina's Central University. Go learn, because North Carolina Central has one of the best law programs nobody really knows about. There's kids from PWIs from Chapel Hill and Duke that were going to that were taking classes at North Carolina Central, but nobody talks about it.
Wow. Yeah, man. That's awesome, man. That's awesome to hear, and that's awesome to hear your story, how you've been advocating out on the West Coast. And speaking of that, I think I will say the hiring of Deion Sanders at Jackson State, I think, kind of changed the game, at least from a football perspective, I'll say.
Absolutely, because it's one thing to have a platform, but it's one thing. It's a platform and then a mantle. And Deion Sanders is holding the mantle.
Yeah.
The man that's holding that mantle has the respect of everybody across the board, and so that's that he literally showed the value of his name, because right now you have 4-star, 5-star kids coming and wanting to be a part of what he's building. And he's going against all these schools that basically have better resources than him, that have these boosters who can pay write in blank checks. So for him to go against them, and to me, and there's some people that been recruited by him that I've talked to, and people have been trying to create this negative image, like, oh, well, he's NILs and he's doing this, he's doing that. Okay, but these other schools been doing it for a long time. Why is it bad if he does it? Why is it such a big problem because he's doing? Oh yeah, because of his skin color, or is it because of the university he's at? And it's one of those things where, like, you hear from the kids that he's recruiting, it's a genuine relationship. Like, people think like, all these kids from inner city, like, they're just being bought. No, because the number one thing is about these kids in the inner city, or these kids that come from these backgrounds where it wasn't that good. Like, a lot of them just want genuine relationships.
Yeah,
and a lot of these kids, they've been kind of used for sports, and then they know what fake looks like. They know what a fake interaction looks like, because they've dealt this since they were little, because people wanted them because they could run fast, they could catch a ball, they could do all these, what they could do with a ball. So I really believe Deion Sanders is really recruiting these kids off a genuine relationship, because as a young man, that's really what you want, is somebody you'd run through a brick wall for, and you have a genuine connection with. And I truly believe 100% that's what Deion Sanders is doing, along with Hue Jackson over there now at Grambling State.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, I was just going to get to that. Since Coach Prime has been at Jackson State, it seems like a lot of HBCUs, specifically Grambling, I'm going to call them out specifically because they've done a great job of going out since Coach Hue has been at Grambling and tapping in with California as a state, and specifically Southern California. And I know a couple of guys from your school have even committed and gotten offers from Grambling. Just what has this influx of the rise of HBCUs as far as notoriety done for the young men out there in California and their interest in some of these HBCUs?
It's actually opened a lot of eyes. Because like I spoke to you momentarily before, a lot of them didn't know a lot about HBCUs, except of what they've seen. But it's one thing for people telling you about a school, and it's another thing for these kids to go search on their own what these schools are talking about. And a lot of these kids now, they're taking the initiative to actually go and research and look at and go look up Grambling's history. Go look why these certain universities were built. And so it's to me it's a great feeling to see, because out of all the schools, I believe in SoCal, our school at Long Beach Poly, like it's been a blessing for me to see like schools like Norfolk State, Shaw University, Grambling, Tennessee State, all these schools actually reach out to our kids and be like, man, look, see, I see you guys got a lot of these kids going to HBCUs. Man, we want to we want to talk to some of your kids. And to me, at first, I kind of was like, man, why? I've been trying to tell you guys for the longest to come out here, and now and it was like, well, like funding, like to get a kid, and I completely understand, and I completely agree that the funding is the problem. To get a kid from California and pay out of state tuition, that's probably a scholarship and a half. So if they come out here and get a kid, the kids out here have to truly understand is like, listen, if you're going out there, you're not going out there to ride that pine wood. Like you're going out there they want you to make some noise,
Yeah.
And so like if they're coming to get you and you go there, understand the scholarship they just gave you, that's a full scholarship and a half. So it's a lot of money they spending on you. And so the value of your scholarship goes up a little bit in value. So understand, like when you say yes to them, your whole competitive nature has to change, because they rarely come out here. So for them to come out here and try and be like, you know what, we'll take that chance on that money, and and so it's a big thing for these kids to understand how important it is for them and the role they play when they do say yes and sign there.
Absolutely. And it's funny that you bring that up, because that's something even I didn't think about, right? Like a lot of our HBCUs have, have their financial struggles or whatever. So to go out and to recruit in a California from a North Carolina or from a Louisiana or from a Mississippi, like one, just getting the staff or coach or whoever to go out there to talk to a young man in person is a big commitment. And then to, like you said, offer a scholarship to a young man coming from a California, that's something a lot of folks didn't think of. I mean, I didn't even think about it until you kind of laid it out there. I just want to ask you, Coach, as someone now, like I said, I want to talk about, when Tyson decided to sign with Grambling, and that's the most recent as far as from your school that signed with an HBCU. How did that make you feel when you saw one of your young men choose to go to a school in the SWAC down in Louisiana and Grambling State?
Man, it was actually really happy to see. And actually, my nephew signed with Morgan State that same day.
Awesome! Wow, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So, man, in all honesty, I was just happy, because it's kind of like, again, it's something I've been preaching for the last 10 years. And his pops, Derek Bordeaux, knows that. I've been really advocating for like kids to like really go there and see for themselves just the opportunities that are in front of you in those places like those, and just the genuine relationships you can create, and not just that, but the experience that you're gonna able to have, and especially going, even after all the negative stigmas about, oh, well, those degrees are less. That it goes out the window once you get there and you realize like it's just like every other degree, and you can be the game changer in making that degree worth more when you choose to go there and be successful after those places. Because the only reason why some of these places their degrees mean more is because people leave from those places and go to go on and do great things. And we have a saying at Long Beach Poly that's in the front of our school. When you leave, go forth and serve. And so that's something that the only reason why our school is very known is because we've had so many people after that at our high school leave and do that. Like I just told you, like, Billie Jean King, who's the reason for Title IX. And Snoop Dogg, Cameron Diaz, Jenny Riviera. So like, again, like, when you leave these institutions, go change the world. Because when you change the world, you can change a generation of kids who are going to go to that institution you just came from, and be proud because you made the decision to go somewhere and change the world and give make your school look good.
Absolutely, absolutely. Once again, we're talking to Coach Marcus from Long Beach Poly. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Now, Coach Marcus, I'll get you out on this. How do you see this trend continuing? The different schools, the HBCUs, both SWAC, MEAC, CIAA. Do you see them to continue to try to pull talent out of California? And do you see the students there in California continue to show interest and choose to go to some of those schools out on the East Coast and down south?
If the administrations at these institutions continue to support their coaches like this, because that's what it automatically comes down to. If the administration continues to support, and this goes for any sports, if they support their coaches like they're doing now, you're gonna see a different type of NCAA football being made. You're gonna see some conference shuffling and throwing, obviously North Carolina A&T isn't in the MEAC anymore. They're in the SoCon, and that's because they were winning and their administration, supported them, and now they're seeing the fruitions of their seeds being planted years ago. If you have these administrations who aren't in it just for the moment, but they actually want to see these HBCUs thrive, then they got to continue to support them like they're doing now. And that's the difference between the Jackson States and the Jackson States, the Grambling States, the Tennessee States. The reason why they're doing, because you have an administration that went out there, got a big name, and the only reason why those guys said yes was because they said, support us 100% in anything we do, and we'll change the whole program around. And now look at it. So if a lot of these if a lot of the HBCUs get on board and administration get on board and tell these coaches, we'll support you 100%, back you 100%, you're going to see a big difference in HBCU football in advertisement and basically like everything, and even in the NCAA football, it's going to be a shift, because right now the shift is starting to happen, but for it to fully shift, everybody from top to bottom have to agree that this isn't just a football coach's thing. It has to be everybody on board, all the way from the president, all the way down to the janitor. Everybody got to believe that they can do something big in the HBCU. So if they all can agree on it, they'll be good, and they'll be able to build.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. I am so thank you so much, Coach Marcus, by the way, for joining me tonight, because I am so excited. I really am interested to see, because I'm really staying on Grambling, because I've seen them with the biggest footprint out west, simply because Coach Hue has all those West Coast connections. And I'm so interested to see what they look like this fall and moving forward with those young men from California, how they impact the team, how they impact, the winning and the ability to win for Grambling moving forward. Coach Marcus, once again, thank you for joining me. Thank you for everything. You shed a light on a lot of stuff, at least for me, and hopefully the audience gets a ton out of it as well. Thank you, and good luck to Poly. You guys are stacked this year.
Hey,
I can't wait to see you guys this fall.
Man, I hope this isn't the last time we talking. Again, man, thank you for providing the platform and having me on here, and I feel blessed, man, and appreciate you.
Hey, it's no problem. This is Coach Marcus from Long Beach Poly, one of the top-ranked schools in the country, by the way, with some studs on both sides of the ball. Thank you guys for watching. Be sure to hit that thumbs up button on your way out, and we will see you next time. Peace.